We made a trip around Arizona to see some of the natural wonders found in that state. Our trip took us from Las Vegas to the South Coyote Buttes area near Kanab, to Page for a raft trip on the Colorado River, a hike through the Lower Antelope Canyon, and a hike to see the Horseshoe Bend on the Colorado River, to Chinle to hike in Canyon de Chelly, to the Grand Canyon for a hike on the South Kaibab Trail and a helicopter flight over the Grand Canyon, and finally to Sedona for some hiking and a balloon ride. To avoid the spring break price gouge in Ontario, we booked a flight from Montreal to Las Vegas with a change of planes in Detroit. During the flight to Detroit, we got good views of downtown Toronto and ice and an icebreaker on Lake Ontario. At the Detroit airport, we passed through its relaxing light tunnel and rode on the indoor intra-terminal tram. Flying over the southwest United States, we were able to observe some of the fascinating landscape that we were about to see on the ground. Just before our arrival, the southwest United States received some 10 inches of snow that blanketed the terrain and made it even more colorful. Not much can be said about Las Vegas that hasn't already been said. A drive down Las Vegas Boulevard is a treat, with sights ranging from wedding chapels to ultra-luxurious casinos. While the casinos are fascinating in the daylight, they particularly come alive at dusk, when they turn on their multicolored lights. Street entertainers also add to the scene at night. The fountain in front of the Bellagio is fascinating, with its nozzles that can send a water blast as high as 460 feet into the air. After our evening arrival in Las Vegas, we made a nighttime drive to Kanab, Utah. We wanted to hike to the famous wave, but needed a couple of the scarce BLM hiking permits for the Coyote Buttes North. Hence, we entered the daily BLM permit lottery. There were about 60 people there for 10 permits. Unfortunately, we did not win. We made a day trip to the White Pocket and South Coyote Buttes in the Pariah Canyon Vermilion Cliffs Wilderness area southeast of Kanab. Access to part of this area requires a permit from the Bureau of Land Management office in Kanab. Despite the amazing landscape found here, it is not a heavily visited area, and we only saw a handful of other visitors. At last we arrived at the amazing White Pocket, with its dazzling array of colors, shapes, and textures that makes it one of the most photogenic places in northern Arizona. Some of the sights to see are very delicate, including some delicately thin sandstone fins. The photographs that we took do not adequately capture the stunning beauty of White Pocket on a sunny day. The extraordinary geology at White Pocket is not easily explained. One theory is that this landscape was the result of a huge slide of sand from a tall sand dune that was triggered by an earthquake. The resultant large sandmass formed the featureless bleached white sandstone or cauliflower rock seen today. But the huge weight of the sandmass caused pressure adjustments on the surface, resulting in the contortions that we see today. White Pocket arguably rivals the famous wave formation that is located in Coyote Buttes North in terms of being an amazing natural formation. However, unlike the wave, it does not currently require a BLM permit to visit, although it does require a high clearance 4x4 vehicle unless you're prepared to hike a long way. White Pocket has an impressively long dinosaur track believed to have been made by a plesiosaur-type swimming dinosaur. Reluctantly, we left White Pocket for sunset at Coyote Butte South. On the tracks to Coyote Butte South, we passed by a few forlorn buildings and traveled over deep sand tracks. Near Page, we stopped to see Wall-Wheat Marina on Lake Powell. This marina is home to large houseboats that ply the lake in season. Due to the huge drop in lake levels, marinas have been forced to relocate their docks to keep operating. A prolonged drought in the southwest and increased human demand for water has reduced the level of Lake Powell by some 110 feet below capacity. This drop in water level has produced a white bathtub ring around Lake Powell and Lake Mead downstream. At Page, we went on a half-day rafting trip down the Glen Canyon on the Colorado River. These trips begin with a drive down a 2-mile-long access tunnel to the foot of the Canyon Dam, which soared 700 feet above us. We had to wear hard hats until we boarded a motorized pontoon raft. Our trip was supposed to end at Lee's Ferry, but because of a landslide which had closed Highway 89 south of Page, we turned around at the Horseshoe Bend and returned back to the foot of the dam. The canyon walls were beautiful due to a covering of rock varnish which had formed over the millennia. We stopped to view ancient petroglyphs left by the Anasazi people.
This was the Navajo. Different tribes used to leave different types of petroglyphs. As you go far over here, you see the stairs, looks like it's descending down. And then you see the other stairs over here going up. Somebody speculates that that's probably showing you the way into the canyon and the way out of the canyon.
In the Horseshoe Bend, we could look up and see tourists 1,000 feet above us as they looked down on the Horseshoe Bend. Horseshoe Bend is the name of a horseshoe-shaped meander on the Colorado River. There is a spectacular view of this bend after a short hike from the parking lot. At the apex of the bend, there is a complete view out over the Horseshoe Bend and the Colorado River some 1,000 feet below. Lower Antelope Canyon is designated as the Navajo Tribal Park, and it was the scene of a tragedy in 1997 when 11 tourists were drowned by a flash flood that ripped through the canyon. This narrow slot canyon was formed by flash flooding eroding the sandstone. The floodwaters carry sand, which increases its eroding power and helps to form the smooth and flowing shapes in the rock. We obtained a photographer's pass, which allowed us 2 hours of unescorted access in this photographer's paradise. Photography in the canyon is challenging due to the wide exposure range made by the light reflecting off the canyon walls as it filters down to the floor. Leaving Page, we drove southeast to Canyon de Chelly, located near Chinle, Arizona. Canyon de Chelly National Monument contains Anasazi cliff dwellings built after 1100 AD and abandoned about 1300 AD. In the early 1700s, the Navajo Indians began settling in the canyon, and today Canyon de Chelly sits in the middle of the Navajo Indian Reservation and is actively used by the Navajo. Spider Rock is a sandstone spire that rises 750 feet from the canyon floor, and near it are abandoned Anasazi cliff dwellings. Access to the canyon floor is restricted, and visitors are only allowed to travel in the canyon when accompanied by either a park ranger or an authorized Navajo guide, with the only exception to this rule being the White House Ruin Trail. This trail is a 3-mile round-trip hiking trail that descends some 600 feet down to the floor of the canyon and then on to the White House ruins themselves. After approximately 1150 AD, North America experienced significant climatic change in the form of a 300-year drought called the Great Drought. Many believe that this drought was one of the causes of the Anasazi abandoning their sites and moving elsewhere. To get a better view of the canyon, we hiked down the South Kaibab Trail until Oa Point, where the canyon walls turn around Yaqui Point and the view of the eastern canyon opens up. The top of the trail was icy, and the ice grips on our boots proved very useful and greatly increased our safety and comfort. Canyon National Park, we stopped at the Grand Canyon Airport for a 50-minute helicopter tour over the Grand Canyon. We flew over the south rim of the canyon to see the scenic eastern end of the canyon. We followed the muddy Colorado River upstream to where it merges with the muddy Little Colorado River. Above that point, the Colorado River is green because of the effect of the Glen Canyon Dam. We viewed Marble Canyon and Point Imperial as we flew through the canyon. We climbed above the north rim, which rises some 1,000 feet higher than the south rim, and so it has more snow cover. Leaving the north rim, we flew south through the Dragon Corridor, the widest and deepest part of the canyon. Passing back over the Colorado River, we flew back over the South Rim and the Kaibab National Forest before landing back at Grand Canyon Airport. Leaving the Grand Canyon Airport, we headed down the highway to our next stop, Sedona. On our way to Sedona, we stopped at Williams for lunch. Williams is on the old Route 66, and it has many businesses that play on the Route 66 theme, making for an interesting stop. There is also interesting railroad rolling stock to see in Williams, since it is the home of the Grand Canyon Railroad, a passenger railroad that operates between Williams and the south rim of the Grand Canyon. At the Sedona Airport, there are interesting views out over Sedona. Crescent Moon Ranch provides ready access to Red Rock Crossing, but unfortunately, due to the height of Oak Creek, the actual crossing was underwater. Nevertheless, that did not detract from the wonderful views of the river and Cathedral Rocks. The Church of the Holy Cross is a jewel set in the Red Rocks. We went on an early morning balloon flight in Sedona. Just before 6 a.m., we were picked up at our hotel for the drive out to the balloon launching site near the Enchantment Resort. Balloons were readied in short order, and soon we were off on a 65-minute balloon ride over the Red Rock area of the Seven Canyons area. Are you guys going to hold on while we're flying?
Every time we go along.
Oh, here's the, look at how fast he's coming down.
We were able to watch the sunrise during our ascent.
Okay, if a tree is getting close to your place, please duck. Coming down right here, we're gonna touch down. Okay, hold that thought, let go back up again a little bit. Take your time, watch out. Back to the
I thought that was in a plane.
After landing and packing up the balloon, we had mimosas to celebrate a successful balloon flight. On our return drive from Sedona to Las Vegas, we stopped to see the Hoover Dam, which we had flown over earlier when we first arrived in Las Vegas. The Hoover Dam, 35 miles from Las Vegas, is an engineering marvel that was completed in 1936 during the Great Depression. The Hoover Dam impounds the Colorado River to form Lake Mead in a reservoir of some 112 miles in length. In 2010, the soaring Hoover Dam bypass opened, taking through traffic off the top of the dam.
Take me somewhere nice, to some tired island in your heart called paradise.